Hello enemies and book lovers, my name is Ash and welcome back to my channel. This is going to be my July wrap up for the month of July. July was an interesting month to say the least. I rated almost everything a 3 or a 3.5 stars, which is slightly unfortunate to say the least. For me, 3 stars isn't bad. It's kind of like a good book, but nothing immensely great, or I just didn't love the book. So a 3-star is not bad. I didn't hate any of these books. A lot of them were just good. I'll let you know what these books are, what they're about, and why I rated them the way I rated them. These are going to be talked about from the books I finished first of the month and the ones I finished last. I wrote notes down so I was more prepared this month for recapping because I forget things way too easily. Yeah, hopefully this helps. For some reason I doubt it, but we're gonna see what I can remember and hope for the best. So the first book I read for the month of July was Delilah Green Doesn't Care. This is by Ashley Herring Blake, and this book I gave a 3 stars. Now, I did not dislike this book. I know this is a very beloved book and I don't want anyone thinking I hated everything. 3 stars isn't bad. The reason why it has a 3-star rating for the most part is because I'm not a contemporary romance reader at all. I love my fantasy romance, my paranormal romance, my darker romances. So a really cute, fluffy contemporary is not really for me. I've read Red, White, and Royal Blue, and so I liked it during the time I read it, but I just don't think I'm a contemporary romance fan. So Delilah Green Doesn't Care is centered around 2 characters for the most part, with obviously a romance that they follow. I have Delilah, who is a photographer, and she's going to her sister's wedding to take photos and pretty much being hired to take photographs for the wedding. Obviously, before the wedding starts, they have to set up the wedding and get it ready. So before the wedding starts, she kind of is there to prepare and she's taking photographs while everyone is preparing for the event. Then we have Claire, who is a mother of a daughter, Ruby, and she lives in the area the wedding is taking place in. But I'm really just trying to fix my hair, but it's not working out. I'm just gonna give up. Claire meets Delilah at a bar and then they kind of hit it off a little bit. There's an attraction instantly. But then Claire finds out that Delilah is actually the same girl that she knew in high school, who was kind of like the one that stayed alone that everyone kind of picked on, like low-key picked on, and she's very surprised by this because she hasn't seen her in so long and she has changed quite a bit. So we follow Claire and Delilah's relationship and it slowly progresses, of course. I like the pacing of the romance. I didn't think it felt very rushed. I kind of liked the gradual one of my favorite parts of this book was Delilah and Ruby's relationship. Ruby is very similar to Delilah in a few ways, and so there is a little bit of a relationship between Delilah and Ruby, and it's like the sweetest thing in the world. It's probably my favorite part of the book, to be honest. I just liked the way that Ruby kind of opened up to Delilah and kind of showed more of her interests through her, and I really liked that part of it. I think that was pretty much my favorite part of the book. Astrid, which is Delilah's sister, her relationship with her soon-to-be husband and the difficulties between that. I mean, I thought that was interesting too, but I just didn't like fall in love with the story. And it's nothing about the book, it's just literally a me thing. That happens sometimes with me. I know a book is good, but I just can't grasp it the same way others might. Like I said, contemporary romance is just not for me, but I thought it was sweet and I thought it was really well done and I liked it, but it was not like incredible. It was very easy to go through though, at least, but yeah, I really liked it. I liked the characters. I like the relationships between the characters. I think this was a simple read and I'm glad I did read it, and I can see why people like it. Just me and contemporary are not a good match. I like my fantasy books, so yeah. Next is Tragic Bonds. This is the 5th book in the Bonds That Tie series. This is by J. Bree, and I was looking forward to this immensely. This also got a 3 stars, which is very unfortunate and surprising for me. This is a paranormal romance versus harem series, and I've mentioned this so many times. So at this point, I don't think I'm going to be talking about this a lot because we all know about it at this point. At least some of my older viewers. I mean, older, it's been like 3 months, but you know what I mean. Like some of the people that have been here for a while, they know what this book is about. They know what the series is about. I just need to stop talking about it. You won't hear about this book until October after this, so you're good for a while. Every single book leaves off on a cliffhanger. This one followed one up that was really intense and I loved the concept of it. I really liked the romance in this book, and finally like everyone's kind of coming together in this book. There's one more coming out in September. I think it's September 28th, and that is the final book, the 6th book. The cover was just revealed and I love it. But yeah, the reason why I didn't love this book is that a lot of the plot of these books, the latest ones especially, seem very recycled. They have a lot of the same things in them, like there's this big battle and that usually happens near the end and a little bit within the first bit of the book. So it's like beginning of the book, a little bit of fighting, middle of the book, and then the end of the book there's fighting again. That pretty much just followed through the last like 3 books, and it's kind of getting tiring. First book is probably the most original. Like, there's like a school kind of setting, they're all forced to live in the same house together. It's like really interesting, the first 2 books. Then after that it just kind of got a little bit boring to me. It felt like these books were supposed to be maybe 3 books, 4 max, and it was stretched to 6. I love the series, I really do, but it feels like a lot of them are not necessary. Other than the romance, I don't really think it's necessary. I do like the slow burn though. It works really, really well with slow burn, but it just feels like the plot sometimes is lacking. But honestly, the romance kind of makes up for it. Love the characters. It's just like the plot is a little bit weak, especially in the later half of the series. But I'm hoping the 6th book will make up for it since it's the last book. So it's probably gonna do well, hopefully. In case you don't know what this book is about, I probably should have mentioned at the beginning, but skip this if you've heard me talk about it a million times already, because I definitely have. The Monstress Thai series is following a female character, Oleander, or Ollie for short, and she, for some reason that you eventually figure out, she runs off as her bonded, which bonded are pretty much bonded mates. So instead of saying mates, they pretty much just say the word bonded. So Oleander is running away from her bonded, and they take this as a sign of her not wanting to be with them, and they kind of take it personal. Once she ends up being around them, they start to be very, very rude to her, and they bully her. Most of them, at least. There is forced proximity. They do have to live in the same house with her eventually, and there is just like this back and forth between not liking each other, and then slowly it gets a bit better. Like I said, in the first 2 books, it really feels great because it's like they're in this house with her, they like hate her, but then they don't hate her at the same time. But in the later half of the series, it kind of just left, and it felt like a lot of that magic kind of went away. But like I said, the romance is great. I just wish there was more of that tension from the first books in the later half of the books. I do plan on doing a series review for this once I'm done it, so yeah, I'll do that probably in October as well once I read the last book. So this is one I picked up on a whim. I had Kindle Unlimited for like a few days, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna pick something random on my KU list. I have about 90 books on my KU list. These are books that I'm interested in reading that are on Kindle Unlimited. Yeah, 89 right now. That's a lot. This is kind of like a 100-page book, 120-page book, so it's incredibly short, so I got through it really fast. And this is Yes, Alpha by Meryl Pierce. This is the first book in the Willing Omega, and I didn't know anything about it. I picked it up. I also give this a 3 stars. I don't know what's up with my 3 stars in July, but it just happened that way. If you are watching this and you like my fantasy books and you want to talk about fantasy and you're just a viewer that likes fantasy, just skip the romance books. It's just for your own good at this point. This is like an alpha, omega, beta kind of series. So a beta brings her omega friend to a club, and the omega doesn't know what this club's about. She doesn't know anything about it, and her friend leaves her alone, only to find out this is a BDSM club. She's terrified because there's alphas everywhere, and she's an omega, so she's an easy target for them. And eventually she does get hit on by a guy that's really, really not very good of a person, and then she gets saved by an alpha. It kind of continues from there. There is actually no smut in the first book, so this one had nothing in it. I kind of liked it because it's a very short book and I don't like insta-love. I was actually surprised it was pretty evened out, the romance in it. I mean, nothing really happened. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to spoil it. It's literally like 120 pages or something like that, so I don't want to spoil it, but if you're interested in it, go ahead and read it, but I don't think I'm going to continue. I didn't love the writing. It wasn't bad, I just didn't love it. Oh wait, I remember why I didn't like it. It was reasons why I didn't like it, and I have it written on my Goodreads review, and I'm going to read it because I just remembered why I didn't like it in some ways. One of the reasons why I didn't love this book is the terminology in it. So you know how like authors go around the actual words for anatomy in smut? It took me away from it completely. At one point he called his anatomy meat, which I just like recoiled from it because first of all, I don't eat meat and I don't want to be near that kind of thing, so like no. And then there's another part where he mentioned her butt and he called it globes, like the world, like a globe. Like, listen, I understand, like, you have to use different words. No, you know what? You don't have to use different words. Just don't reuse the same words over and over again. But you don't have to call it globes. You don't have to call it mounds. You don't have to call it meat. Just say the word, okay? I'm just reading these scenes and randomly, like, his meat pops up and I'm like, nope, I'm done. that's enough for me. Terminology for some reason really gets to me, so if it's like used in that terms, no. I didn't think it was horrible though. Just because of that, I didn't think it was horrible. I just give it 3 stars because it wasn't that interesting to me. It was fine. Nothing really to say other than that. It was fine. It's a short book. Can't really do much with like 120 pages. The next book I have is Crow Winter by Karen McBride. This was my Library Lotto book, so I'm not going to talk too much about it because I had a whole vlog on it. This book is following Hazel, who is the main character, and recently her father has passed away, so it follows her and her mother's grief of her father passing away. Alongside that, we also have Nunnabush, who is a crow that's speaking to her. We also have Hazel's father's land that was supposed to be passed down to her after his death, but went into the hands of someone else. We're trying to follow that. We're trying to fix all the problems. We're trying to go through the grief. I found it pretty interesting. I gave this a 3.5 out of 5, and I rounded up to a 4 on Goodreads. I thought it was really beautifully done. This is also a debut novel by Karen McBride, and I thought she did an amazing job. Canadian Indigenous author with Indigenous themes, and I really liked it. It wasn't something I usually read, so obviously I didn't give it like a 5 out of 5 stars, but it is something I did enjoy, so really liked it. Not gonna talk too much about it because I have a whole video on it, but yeah, pleasantly surprised by this book. Next is Monstress Volume 1. This is a graphic novel series, and I of course had to start it a new series because why not, I guess. This is a fantasy steampunk horror-esque book. It is very much inspired by like H.P. Lovecraft. It is really, really cool. I love the art style. The art style is probably my favorite part of this book, and I can't wait to read more. I don't rate my graphic novels because there's too many components within graphic novels to really rate it, in my opinion. Unless it's something I loved, like Heartstopper I really liked, so that was easy for me to give like a 4 or 5 stars to. But this is like, there's different art styles, there's different dialogue, there's too many components for me to usually rate things. I usually don't rate manga either. So yeah, I didn't rate this one. It would probably be, I don't know, maybe like in the 4 range if I really had to rate it. It's hard to recap what the series is about. It's just very detailed, and there's a lot of little nuances and small parts to it that I can't really recall. It's essentially about a main character who has something within her that is very much dangerous, and a lot of people want to kill her and see her as evil, and to be honest, I wouldn't really disagree with them. There are a lot of evil people in these books. There are also really nice characters and kind characters in these books that are even helping the main character, and it's just really interesting to see. I want to see where it goes. I'm curious to see where it goes, and I want to kind of see where the main character goes from here because she's pretty badass, and I don't know if I like her or not. I kind of like her, but she's kind of scary, so we'll see how this goes, and hopefully it plays out well in the next few volumes. Next is Eragon by Christopher Paolini. This is the first book in the Inheritance cycle, and this book I gave a 3 stars exactly. Flat out 3 stars. I'm reading this book because my boyfriend wants me to read the Inheritance cycle, and I can kind of see that this book is very much written at a time where Christopher Paolini was very young. It feels like someone a little bit younger wrote it. It's not in a bad way though, obviously. It's not horribly written or anything. He's actually a pretty good writer, considering he was 15 when he started this book and then 19 when he published it. So I think that's pretty commendable, and I think he did a great job. There were just parts of it that I didn't love. The biggest thing was it was very linear in a way. It was written like going from point A to point B to point B to point C, and it seemed like nothing was really cohesive at times. This is also incredibly tropey and cliche for fantasy books. They pretty much tell you all the twists and turns before they even happened. There was maybe like one I didn't know about, but like everything I predicted before it even was mentioned. Like one little thing happened and I'm like, oh, he's a bad guy, isn't he? I mean, that kind of sucked, but it still was a good read. This book mostly just traveled and went from one location to another location, and during that travel between the locations, it was just travel. Pretty much following Eragon, and he's a young boy who finds himself in the path of a stone, and it's a beautiful blue stone that he discovers. Eventually, he figures out what it is, and we go on a journey from his current place to another area once it kind of gets attacked by something else. There is a big villainous character who is not introduced in this book, but we do follow smaller bad guys, I guess you can say. There's really not much to say about this book because it just follows Eragon finding the stone, and eventually their dragons are introduced. Well, only one dragon. as you can probably predict, are other fantasy races, and I actually found that really interesting. I don't really read many books personally that have like elves and dwarves, and I know that's a normal thing in like higher fantasy books like Tolkien's books and older fantasy books, but I'm not used to that personally. I haven't really read a book like that before, so I found it really cool, and I want to keep reading and learn more, but like I didn't find myself completely loving the book. I did like the ending. It was really, really well done. I think I liked everything other than just like the unnecessarily lengthy travel time. Like I did like it, but it was pretty much just them traveling and then like little things happening, like Eragon being trained the entire time. Like he was learning how to fight, and then he was learning how to do this, and then he was learning how to read better, and I was like, I get it. Time is passing by. I know. I do like my travel in my fantasy books if it's really, really well done. In this one, it was fine. It was just like kind of a slog. I felt really bored, and I was kind of having a hard time reading at times, but I did like the ending. I think they'll get better as they go because Christopher Paolini ages as he writes these books, so I think it'll go well. But yeah, 3 stars for this, flat out 3. This is probably my weaker of the month, but I still think that it might get better. It will get better. It will. I have confidence in this book, right? Oof. And the last book I read for the month of July was Enshrined by J.R. Ward. I gave this book a 3.5 out of 5. I rounded up to a 4 on Goodreads, and I actually really liked this book. Even though I gave it a 3.5 stars, I enjoyed this quite a bit. This book was honestly going to be at least a 4 stars, but then I kind of got bored as well in this book at times. This is the 6th book, I believe, in the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. This is a paranormal romance series with vampire and mates, and it pretty much just follows that within the whole series. There are other supernatural races that are created in this series. One thing about the series that makes me want to laugh but also cry are the names. The names were a choice. A choice. It almost makes it a gimmick and like a joke, but it's not a joke. It's actually their names. We have Rage, we have Wrath, we have Vicious, we have Revenge. Weird. But I do like the series, so I mean, I can't complain too much, but every single time I see people mention their names, I'm like, oof. It's not huge spoilers, so I'm not gonna say anything too detailed, but this follows Fury, who is the brother of Sadist, who is a prior main character from another book. I think it was like 2 books ago or 1 book ago. I think it was the last book, the 5th book. Who knows? They're all so similar. We're following Fury, and he has a pretty big dilemma on his hands. I can't talk too much about it because it is a spoiler for the later books or the prior books, but in this book he is kind of having a problem with his new kind of responsibilities that he doesn't want to deal with. He also in this book struggles with substance abuse, so if that is something that's hard to read, be very wary of it. I do put trigger warnings for my books. Recently I've been doing it just because I've been doing booktube, and I feel like it's kind of good to try to write them down. So I have it written down on my Goodreads review. This series in general though has pretty big trigger warnings, like pretty big, and this book wasn't much different. There were things in it that were new, and yeah, there were hard topics in this book. I really, really enjoyed it, but the romance was probably about 30% of this book. The other 70% was the plot. J.R. Ward does an amazing job writing plot and characters, and like well fleshed out characters with different backstories and different ideas and thoughts and feelings. She's really good at writing them, but oh my god, there's so many of them, and that's not really a bad thing, but we're kind of here for the romance and it felt like the romance was on the back burner in this book. I did like it, surprisingly. I don't really love Fury, who is the main protagonist in this book, but I liked him quite a lot in this book, and I was pleasantly surprised. But a lot of things were happening. A lot of other characters were in this, and I did enjoy it. There's actually a few other characters that I love. John, Quinn, and Belay, I think their names are. I really liked them a lot. One of the vampires is bisexual. He does end up with a female. I think all these books are female, male, but I guess you can take what you can get, but it is slightly disappointing, to be honest. There's like over 20 books, and they're all just female and males. There is a side romance kind of in this book between 2 male characters, and I am rooting for it, even though it's not working out very well. I want to see what happens. Maybe the rest of the series they'll get together, and I'm really hoping they will, like, please. I think a lot of people that like paranormal romance would enjoy this series. It is really long and you have to dedicate a lot of time to it. There are some male protagonists that I didn't care for. I didn't like Butch very much. I did not like Wrath, and Wrath is the first book's main character, and I almost DNF'd the series just because I didn't like him very much, but thankfully I kept going. Rage is one of my favorite characters. He's the second character's protagonist, I believe. Yeah, I think I liked almost everyone. Rage is definitely my favorite. He is a vampire who has like this beast inside of him, and his mate is the only person that it does not like attack, so she can like go up to him in his beast form and doesn't get hurt, and everyone's like, wait, what? I just find that really, like, I don't know, I like that. Like, what does that mean about me? I don't know. Yeah, a lot of these books are very different from each other, but they do follow a back plot, I guess, at the same time. Loved this book, but yeah, I kind of brought it down a little bit because of the whole, like, there's just so many things that are happening. The romance was very small and insignificant. It was also very slow burn. Nothing actually, no spice really happens until like this point, so like this is the end of the book, so it doesn't really happen early on in the book, which I like because I love slow burn. But if you like kind of more like fast-paced erotica or smut or anything like that, then you might not want to read the series, but it's good. I do recommend these, even though these covers are also really bad. Like, look at these. I hate these covers. They do get a little bit better in the later books, but still, like, those were the 7 books I read in the month of July. It was a fine month. It was like a mediocre month. Like, I still was good overall, but still, like, could have been better. Could have had some solid 4 stars. I think 3 is still pretty good for me. Anything under 3 though usually is not a good sign. Or 3 is just my like bare minimum for being a good book. Nothing really disappointing, just nothing like great. I hope you're all doing well and not too hot. I know a lot of people have been saying that they want autumn to come, and I want autumn to come too. Like, nothing is better than autumn/fall. Like, we need fall to come soon because it's way too hot. It's like 40+ degrees Celsius with the humidex outside. I hate summer. I apologize to all you summer lovers out there, but just summer is not for me. If you finish this, let's do an emoji, because you know what? I find that kind of cute. I like doing it. So let's do that. If you finished this video and you want to put an emoji down below, put one pertaining to your favorite season. Mine is autumn, so it'd be like leaves, you know, like a maple leaf, falling red leaves. But if you like winter, put a snowflake. If you like summer, put a sun. And if you like spring, put a flower. Tell me your favorite season. I'd love to know. Thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, I'm almost at 200 subscribers, which I don't really know how I feel about that, because I never really thought anyone would care about my videos, and I never thought I'd be in front of a camera. I am incredibly self-conscious because of my childhood. I was bullied a lot of my life, so I'm not very confident, and I've always been behind a camera, not in front of one. So the fact that I do this is still, to me, remarkable. And it sounds kind of weird, but like, I'm just really surprised that I put myself on the internet. I never ever thought I would. So just thank you for everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting and communicating with me and adding me on Goodreads and on Instagram and like being amazing, pretty much. There's so many amazing people on here, and thank you so much for that. Like, I don't have many friends. I haven't seen my friends since December of last year. I don't really talk to anyone. Like, literally in like a 2-month span, I sometimes talk to like one other person other than my boyfriend. So it's hard at times, but you all help me keep company, so thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'm gonna stop being cheesy because that's enough of that. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here, and I'm gonna stop saying thank you. Goodbye, everyone.